What's up, yellow little faith, and welcome to the 7th episode of Season 2 of the Fagnostic Podcast. I'm your hostess, not your Moses, Matt Hayes, and if I'm still giving you episodes, it means that I'm still looking for answers. Today, I have got two of the Mama Dragons on to talk about what they're doing for LGBTQ children and their mothers. You may have heard of this amazing organization, but if not, it's a nonprofit based in Utah that started as a handful of moms and now serves over 8,000 mothers, impacting countless youth. Mama Dragons' focus is on education programs and safe online spaces where mothers can learn and connect with other Mama Dragons traveling similar paths as they learn accepting and affirming parenting practices that can help prevent LGBTQ youth suicide and self-harming behaviors, depression, and homelessness. Celeste and Anne are joining us today to talk about how they got involved with the organization. Celeste is the executive director of Mama Dragons. She comes from a business and leadership background and has worked with LGBTQ youth and nonprofits for the past decade. She and her partner Jamie live just outside Seattle and have both come from non-accepting religious backgrounds. This fuels Celeste's passion for understanding and serving the intersectionality of faith and parenting LGBTQ children. Anne is the director of PR and events and came to Mama Dragons after being referred to the organization following her child coming out as trans. From the moment her daughter came out to her, she's been working to help other mothers navigate the waters of supporting and loving their queer children. We all deserve to have a Mama Dragon in our corner, and I am excited to share this conversation with you. Welcome to the show, Mama Dragons. Mama Dragons. Thank you all for being here today. I have got Anne and Celeste with me. Both of them represent two leaders within the Mama Dragons organization, which I just learned about from a previous guest, Andrew, who was letting me know all about what you do to prevent church trauma, basically. So tell me who you are, where you are. I think you're both in Utah, right?
So I'm not in Utah. My name is Celeste. I'm the executive director for Mama Dragons, and I'm just out of Seattle in a small town called Bremerton, Washington. I, in fact, have never lived in Utah.
Great.
But I did grow up Mormon.
Okay.
Went to Brigham Young University, Idaho. Almost was kicked out, which is kind of rad, for being gay. Kissing all the girls. I was definitely kissing all the girls.
Yes.
And then had to lie about it to stay in because there's still problems with that today, right? You have to repent to stick around. And now I get an awesome ability to use my business skills and help this amazing organization, Mama Dragons, grow. And we're pretty simple. Like we help moms advocate and learn how to affirm their LGBTQ kids.
That's so important.
It is. Like, in fact, all the data and all the research out there says that if you want to lower LGBTQ youth suicide, if you want to lower LGBTQ youth depression, you know how you do it? You do it through parents, specifically moms.
I believe it. I believe that for sure. Great. Well, let's get your questions out of the way then. Are you a believer?
You know, I am an adventurous type. And so I would say I'm an adventurer when it comes to religion.
I love that. An adventurer. Great.
Yeah. So I'm like open, curious, but just wanting to go on an adventure. Like there's no real end destination I'm looking for.
Fantastic. And can you identify your pronouns for us?
Yeah. She, her.
Great. Awesome. Anne, let's jump to you now. Where are you located?
I am in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Awesome.
I am the cliche. So I live here in Salt Lake City. I am a mom to 4 kids. My husband and I are raising these amazing humans. They are ages 15 to 20 right now. And that's where we're at.
Great. Are you a believer?
I am a believer. I am absolutely a believer. I am a believer in human connection. I'm a believer in kindness and in mutual respect. I am a believer in the way we can reach each other's hearts and care for each other and support each other. I'm a believer that I have the power to lift and support other people and that they have the power to lift and support me. So those are the things that I believe in.
I love that. That's wonderful. Can you identify your pronouns for us?
Yes, my pronouns are she, her, and thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you for giving that to us. I appreciate it. I think it's so important. People often ask me, just as a thought leader in the religious conversation around faith and sexuality, why it's important to identify your pronouns, and it's just to create that space so that others who maybe do not identify as what society purports them to identify as, feel safe and seen and heard and willing to identify those. And I think we've got to. I have it in my email closing, everywhere that I can have my pronouns identified. I try to. But yeah, I appreciate y'all being willing to divulge that. So I love Salt Lake City, by the way. I was there 2 summers ago. I was actually camping with 2 of my really close friends. We drove up and did Bryce Canyon. We did Zion. We did, and we went up into Park City because my friend's sister lived there at the time. And that was my first time going through Utah and going that far north. I've been all over the world and all over the country, but never up into the PNW or into Utah. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I could live here. It's so beautiful and clean, and the air tastes better. It was just great. So tell me, if for someone who's never heard of Mama Dragons, how would you describe what it is, Celeste?
Yeah, Mama Dragons is a nonprofit that supports moms who have LGBTQ kids. And they do that through education. They do it through support groups and different programs that help moms understand how to understand the journey, what an LGBTQ kid or adult, what their journey is and how do they support them as a parent. Sure. I feel like parenting, they always say there's no book for parenting an LGBTQ kid. And I guess that's where Mama Dragons comes in, and we try to give that.
To be that book.
Yeah, be the book.
Yeah. And I imagine that a lot of what you educate parents with is just saying, create the space, love your kid. What else happens? I mean, how do you because I assume most of the parents come to you and they're at least wanting to try to understand their kid. It's not like they're coming to you to say I hate my kid. Can you affirm that?
No, that's a requirement.
I hope not.
There has to be some sort of wanting to understand them. You can't teach someone who doesn't want to be taught.
Yeah.
So, it's really unique for each parenting journey. A lot of our moms, when they come to us, they'll jump onto an education platform that we have called Parachute, and they do some online learning. Cool. A lot of times people take a minute to say anything in any of our support groups, and they just listen for a long time. But the actual resources and things that they need is vast and a wide array. Everything from gender and people at different ages exploring their gender, to suicide prevention, to family dynamics, to support with religion.
Do you have parents come, and maybe we can jump to you, Anne, for this one. Do y'all have parents come to the organization after, God forbid, a parent loses their child to self-infliction or to suicide, but do you have parents come to you after they have lost a child to try to seek reconciliation with what they have been a part of? Or does that make sense what I'm asking? Or is it mostly people who are actively trying to understand their kid?
I think in general, we mostly have people who are actively trying to understand their kid, but with over 8,000 members, we have...
Wait, you have over 8,000 members?
We have over 8,000 members. We're in every state, and we're in 20 countries around the world. And we're just continuing to grow because there is a need. Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
So, Liz, can you tell me where the name Mama Dragons came from? I'm obsessed with the name because it sounds just so like Mama Bear to me. You know what I mean? It just seems so aggressive.
It's aggressive. It came from a blog post that was written by one of our moms, Meg, in 2012. And she was writing about her experience with her own child. At the time, her son was 13. And I actually know him, adorable human being, right? 13-year-old. And when she found out he was gay and they were in the Mormon or LDS church, she just envisioned kind of everything that was stacked up against him. And she just was infuriated, and she knew that being a mama bear wasn't enough. And she literally envisioned herself having talons and fighting for this kid, and that she was a mama dragon. And so that name kind of got adopted by this group from that blog post, that being a mama bear was enough, that they needed mama dragons to fight for them.
Yeah. I love that. So tell me about the countries that y'all got into, because 80 countries you said around the world? 20. Okay. Still, that's a large number. And are any of them not first world countries that are maybe under theocratic rule, where you have to kind of be secretive to go in there and stuff?
Yeah, some of those countries. And in that case, there's a lot of worry about joining our support groups or what resources they have. Our biggest country is actually Canada. besides Mexico. But in each culture, people have their own triggers and traumas,
Of
and
course.
like, or even in each state, like in the U.S., a lot of our moms down in Texas are really worried right now. A lot
Yeah.
of them are moving out of the state because of what's happening there. Moms in Florida, they're outraged, right? Like, and so we're supporting not only like parents in potential like Utah, where there's a lot of religious persecution, but there's political persecution happening in these
Yep.
states.
Yep. God. Yeah, it's really heartbreaking to see what's going on right now, because I think we just felt so, maybe not felt so safe, because I think we all kind of were, we had a bit of trepidation, I think, with the liberties or the rights that we were guaranteeing. But it is really heartbreaking to see. I just think about the kids that are living in those states, watching, even if they're not out, they're aware that they're battling over their worth. And for them to have to watch the news and to go to church and hear people talk about this, I just, that's part of why I keep fighting, because it's not about the people who are, just coming out of it, the trauma, but it's the people that are in the middle of it. And these kids that are in these pews, and their entire worldview is being constructed by these people who are just advocating for fear and for hate. And it's heartbreaking. I'm so thankful that y'all exist for that purpose. When you were coming, because you identify as a lesbian, right?
Correct.
So when you were coming out, you were at Brigham Young.
Yeah.
I mean, there's moral codes there. How did you? I know you almost got kicked out, but how did you have the confidence and the strength to be like, I'm going to be me, like I don't care?
Well, I mean, that took a minute, right?
Sure.
First of all, like me, and probably a ton of people today in the same situation, a lot of times you don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know for a minute. I just knew that I had really close relationships with women, and I liked cuddling with them, and holding their hands was awesome.
Right.
But I was stupid as can be, right? Like, in a religious dynamic, it makes sense that that could occur, right? Like, you don't have close, intimate relationships with the opposite sex. You're not having sex, and so it was really confusing at that time. And I remember the first time I fell in love with a girl, I told her, and she was like, I think it's Satan and we should go see our bishop. And so we saw the bishop, and we're like, oh God. But later, like, there's a lot of shame involved. There was a lot of secrets. I mean, at BYU, when I was outed, is what happened, is when I sent to dean and outed, and I lost friends over it. I had a lot of shame. And even if maybe I could have kept those friends, I didn't know how to even address that, because it didn't fit within the cultural norm. And I ended up pushing a lot of people away. And so it took me a while to kind of separate myself from that and being like, okay, where's me in all of this?
Yeah. Wow. And I know that you have got, you said you had one child who identifies as one of the letters of LGBTQ. Can you tell us about how you got involved with Mama Dragons, and what it was like for you on the journey to acceptance for your kid?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was about 3 years ago, my child, who was 14 at the time, came tiptoeing into my bedroom in the middle of the night, shaking like an earthquake, and sat down on my bed and said, Mom, I've got something I need to tell you, and then whispered, please don't be mad. And I just threw my arms around my kid, and I said, there's nothing you can say that will change how much I love you. And throughout the process of that conversation, my child came out as transgender, and she explained to me, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. And we sat together and we cried and we talked about all sorts of things. And then eventually she went back to bed. And before she did, though, I promised her I had her back. And so she went off to bed, but I did not. I sat awake thinking, I have just made a huge promise, and I don't know how to make good on that promise. And so I jumped onto an online group, of just a private chat group with some friends, and I told them what was going on, and I said, I just needed some direction. And they said, join Mama Dragons. And so I did. I applied that night and was admitted in the next little while to join Mama Dragons, and it has just been an incredible experience. I knew that my world was about to change, and I was ready for it. I was ready to go with that. I knew that I was going to change within my faith community.
Yeah.
And in my extended family. And I was ready. I knew my priority was this child.
Yeah.
And so
you were an active member of the LDS church at that time.
I was, yes. I was raised LDS, and but my background's a little different. Both of my parents are very liberal. So I come from a very conservative religion, but raised by very liberal, just highly educated parents from the East Coast. So I had always kind of lived in this dichotomy of not really fitting in either world. And it was almost this moment of, needing to choose what thing was my biggest priority in that moment.
Yeah.
I remained active in the LDS church for a long time. And there's still a lot of traditions and beliefs that are still dear to me, and memories and music and so on that still matter to me. But it was so great, even though I personally remained active in my church for a long time, my sense of belonging and community changed because I was alone. I was going through this huge thing, and there wasn't anybody who could relate to me in those pews, or at least not who was speaking up.
I was about to say, yes, that.
Right. And so within Mama Dragons, I was able to find a community, people I could talk to, people I could be frustrated, vent my frustrations, and I could ask my questions, and I could just sit back and observe their conversations and find the peace and comfort of knowing I'm not alone, and we're in this together, and we've got our kids.
Yeah.
And, there's that. And then there's just some of those are like the soul-filling questions, but there are just the logistics too. How do I raise a transgender child who was 14 in Utah? How do you do that? One of the first conversations I observed when I first joined Mama Dragons was someone talking about haircuts and how they had taken their kid to get a haircut, and the salon had turned them away and said, "We're not comfortable with this." And I was in the process of thinking, we got to go get Sophia a haircut. And it never occurred to me that I needed to, call ahead and make sure she was going to be in a safe place. And so I did that. And I wouldn't have thought to do that without some of these just simple logistical things that pop up in the support group to, guide you in just the day-to-day activities like getting a haircut.
Right. God, so how? Because I've been wanting to do an episode with just parents of children who have come out as transgender, because I feel like because of the biological connection that most parents have with their kid, if they are biological, there is that mourning or that loss of the child that they knew. That journey just is so interesting to me. How long did it take you? I mean, I know that in the moment you said, "I got your back. I love you. You're not going to lose me." But I imagine there was a learning curve, at least internally, where you were having to figure out, like, is this right? Am I wrong? Like, what am I? How did you get through that time?
I think I cried a lot, but not for the reasons you might expect. I cried every time somebody was kind to her. I cried every time somebody used her name. I cried every time somebody said to me in, my first week of knowing her truth, somebody said to me, "I've got you." And I cried because somebody had me, a lady up the street who had been one of her church leaders when she was a little girl, came running down to our house with a necklace with her new name on it. And it was just moments of those kinds of, what I would call, all my life, I would call a Christ-like act. Yeah. And though perhaps not exactly endorsed by the church I was raised in,
Isn't it weird? These, like, the simplest Christ-like act is love. And yet, it's the last action we see from the majority, and I hate painting with a broad stroke, even though I do it all the time. We just don't see it enough in the way that it's practiced. What about run-ins that y'all have had with the LDS church? Celeste, have y'all, I mean, because you're the executive director, so I imagine that you bear a lot of the brunt of any kinds of, antagonistic behavior, but have you run into any aggressors or people making threats or anything like that?
It's the LDS Church definitely knows who the mom dragons are, right? They know that you put 8,000 moms on it, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right. We've had ups and downs. I feel like there's been times where it feels like things are really progressing and it looked like specifically the LDS Church was moving forward. And then there's been times that you're like, what the heck just happened?
Yeah.
And they take major step back.
Even like, I remember the Mormon Church was one of the first mainstream Christian churches that seemed to like, it wasn't gay marriage, but it was like the idea of unions, or it was almost a little bit of progressive mentality about the gay lifestyle. And then it was, I forget what happened. Something else came out in the, the federal or the larger media. And I feel like they then like recanted what they had said. But you're right. It seems like, do you feel like there's a place in the future of LDS or the Mormon churches where you see some acceptance and affirmation?
I don't know, honestly.
Are you still involved with the church?
I am not. I did. I spent a good period of time doing advocation within because, as we know, if you want to change an organization, it's easier to do within than out. But I kind of came to the point where I was like, this is hurting more than helping myself and others.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I think what's tricky is you get born into wherever you're born, whatever religion, whatever family, this is what you've got. And you prescribe to that is your reality. And if now today, like, because Mormonism is much like, I would say like evangelical religions, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe even like a Jewish religion where it's like more than just a church you go to on Sunday. It's your whole world. It's your family, culture. It's everything. And it's not that you can just shop for another church. It doesn't work that way. But in the construct now of today, I'm like, what are my needs? Like, there's so many other religions that could potentially fit those needs.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, I was like, well, I'm spending all this time and resources trying to fix this thing that's broken that doesn't want to be fixed. And really, maybe the best thing is to find something that can really fulfill your needs.
Yeah.
I wonder to some degree if it's going to exist long term. Like, what will them, besides them having lots of money, what will be the need long term? I don't know. Like, it's always like, we just know what's happening to religion today.
Yeah.
Our religions are shrinking. The need is changing. And I don't know. They have built some policies, some doctrines that are so built into gender and marriage that I don't know how they're going to unwind those.
Yeah.
It's like they built themselves into a corner on it.
Yes, absolutely.
And now they're fighting themselves to try out of it, but they can't because they built the corner.
And the Mormon Church, I feel like LDS and this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like a very micromanaged organization in that it's very centrally run by a group of people. Are there sects of Mormonism that have tried to split off to be like, oh, we're the progressive Mormons? Or
there are, but they generally turn into, I mean, people believe Mormonism is a cult, but they usually turn in these off-sect small cults,
right?
And they don't move anywhere. So yeah, you're right. In the concept of Mormonism, everything is very centralized. They still believe there's a modern prophet, there's 12 apostles, everything comes from the top down. And everything is done the same way in every single church throughout the world.
So you growing up Mormon, how were your parents when you came out? Did it change their faith at all?
No, my journey was trickier, right? I had some disconnection with my parents when I came out, and I was living with another family, and that family was active LDS, and there was some big problems with it. And I felt like I wasn't safe to go back there.
Yeah.
And so that I had a loss, but it wasn't my family of origin.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, like that's not abnormal, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of how we progress the advocation and acceptance of love of our community is just by people being associated with us, being related to us, being our neighbor, and just seeing, oh, like they're not a pedophile, they're just a normal person who just wants to love, whatever it is, right? And what about, I mean, because I think it's ignorant to think that like the leaders of the LDS Church don't have gay people in their families or trans people in their bloodline. I mean, how you would think that those people, when having to make the choice whether to love their kid or their spouse or their sibling or their parent or not, that they would choose love. Are there leaders within the LDS Church that you know of who have turned their back on their queer family member, child, parent, sister, brother?
Yeah, so I think that they would not see it that way. I think that they believe that their version of love is actual love. Their version of let me force you into a box that you don't fit into is how I'm going to show you that I love you. Yeah. And so they don't see the disconnect between their words of love from the pulpit and the way that they treat their loved ones. And I believe they really do think that they're acting out of love. I know that we have tried to tell them that they are not, but they don't hear it because I think, just as Celeste was saying, you can be so ingrained, so painted into a corner with the things you've said for so long that even if it's your kid or your brother, and we definitely know of circumstances, leaders who are in that situation, they have just come down so firmly on what they believe is right and wrong, and that if they can, the only way to love you is to try to save your soul, and your soul can't be saved if you're who you say you are, so we have to fix that, and that's how we're going to love you. Yep. And now that said, I do need to add the caveat that with 8,000 members in our organization, we come from all sorts of belief systems.
It's not just Mormon LDS.
It is not just LDS. And in fact, even within the people who are Mormon adjacent, if you will, we have many who have remained active in the church and really tried to make that work. And that is their journey. And we have many who have left loudly and angrily, and we probably have a whole lot in between, and that's just the group that are Mormon adjacent. My assistant on my team, she has a Southern Baptist background, and our stories are actually remarkably similar, even though they happened many miles apart. Our upbringing is really similar, and I think that that's kind of a niche that Mama Dragons fills. We provide a community, not always, and this isn't everybody's story, but I think we often have people who come from very conservative religions who know in their hearts that there's nothing wrong with their kid. Yeah. They know that their kid is perfect. Yeah. And so they lose their community and they find a new one with us.
That's fantastic. That's one of the most heartbreaking things is that, when parents, I say choose to love, I don't really think it's a choice. It's just innate. I think the choice is to not love. But when they choose to follow their love for their kid, losing that entire community can often be really traumatizing for the parent. And not that trauma outweighs the trauma of the queer child, but I'm just so thankful that organizations like Mama Dragons exist to fill the void that one might have in losing their church, and you're able to provide that with the community, with support, with empathy. It's so impressive. Are there any stories that stick out to either one of you of where you have seen how a child's life was probably saved because of your efforts, or has there been any, or even has there been a story where you thought things were going great for somebody and then they got scared and reverted back to their old religious ways because they were afraid to lose their community? Does that make sense?
I am sure that there are many in both categories, but one of the programs that Mama Dragons offers is kind of a give back program called Paper Hugs. We have a similar one called Wrapped in Hugs. Both of these programs are incredible, and they are they allow moms to give back after they've kind of gotten to a place where they are able to do that. Paper Hugs is a program where moms get together and send cards to kids who are struggling, and sometimes to moms who are struggling as well. Yeah. And so I think we calculated last year we sent 50,000 or so of these paper hugs. That means 50,000 times somebody sat down and said, I'm going to write a hug to a stranger. I'm going to write a card and let them know that they matter. And with Wrapped in Hugs, it's a really similar concept, but it is a blanket program where moms hand make blankets and send them to moms or kids in crisis. And I do believe that those programs are changing lives. I know they are. Yeah. I was at an event a little while ago that I was working at the table, just getting information out about Mama Dragons. And we had a mom come walking up to our table with her husband, and she just burst into tears. And she said, my child was in the hospital following a suicide attempt. And you rallied and you sent her cards and you saved her life. And the husband leaned down and said to me, I feel like you saved my wife's life too. It meant as much to her as it meant to my child. And that was the most moving thing I could possibly hear. And I immediately jumped on my phone and texted that story to the incredible team who is leading that group and organizing that program, because we don't get a lot of the feedback. Right. You send it out into the world and hope that it's doing some good. And sometimes I'm sure they fall flat, but sometimes I think we're changing lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. So for both of you, what was the final straw? Are you still involved with your church, Anne?
I am, to an extent.
And they're fully aware of your child and everything?
They absolutely are. Yeah. And in fact, I live in a great little neighborhood that has been very good to her. They have, none of the leadership to our face have ever dead named her or misgendered her. Really? Whenever people talk to me about her or ask about her, it is always with kindness and with the proper terminology. That is not true by any stretch of the imagination for everyone.
Right, yeah.
I do still, my daughter does not, and most of my kids don't. I do still show up at church from time to time. And my reasons, they vary. And one of them is that I have people reach out to me all the time and say, hey, I need somebody to talk to. Yeah. And I saw you at church, and I know you have a queer kid. Can we talk? Yeah. And I want to at least be present enough to be somebody people can turn to in that moment, mostly so I can say, join Mama Dragons, So I still have a little bit of that voice, and I have their teenagers reach out to me in the middle of the night and say, how do I talk to my mom? And I always want to help mom get on board. I want mom to be a safe person to talk to. I'm not a stand-in for their mom. And so we work together to get mom to that place and so on. And I feel like for me, if I walk away altogether, I don't have a voice. They don't see me there. They don't know they can come talk to me. And I know for many that's not a safe place for them. And I absolutely validate the departure when it's not safe for you anymore. Yeah. And if my daughter at some point, right now, she's really proud of it. She tells her friends, look, my mom goes to church still so that she can help people who are struggling there. At some point, she might be really bothered by that. She might say, can we stop associating with a group that hurts me? And I will walk away the moment she says that. Yeah.
Wow. I'm so thankful for your heart and for that your kid is able to see that, and she's able to see the kind of woman that you are and the entire organization represents. Celeste, where do you see Mama Dragons going? Like, what are your goals with, 8,000 members is no small feat, but, how do people, is it just online, or are there chapters in cities that, kind of centralize a meeting place?
Yeah, so kind of answer your question, how do they find us? We are mostly online.
Okay.
We offer education courses online. We have an entire e-learning program for parents and people that want to learn about what it's like to parent LGBTQ kids. We have online support groups, and we have different subgroups of those. So we try to really hard to meet where people are at. Mm-hmm. Wherever they're at in their journey, we try to create some type of affinity group to meet them. And then the third aspect is we offer regional groups that happen throughout the U.S. And we try to combine people in a way that people can meet up in person, because we know that no matter how much research you throw at people, that's not what changes people. Yeah. You know that. People change because a personal connection, or that they hear their story in somebody else's story. And so a lot of what we do is trying to cultivate the story sharing of being able to tell your story and being able to hear other people's stories. Nice. And that's what we find really changes the hearts and minds of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about when men have come to you to say, like, how can I support? How, is it just money? Is it resources? What can men do to support Mama Dragons?
We'll take all the above. And there's we have a kind of a brother partnership with Dragon Dads.
Dragon Dads,
It's not
yes.
affiliated with Mama Dragons,
Okay.
but they do similar things that we do. And they're more in the infancy stage of their organization. But that is, I feel like, if you can't be a Mama Dragon, go be a rad Dragon Dad.
Yeah, I know, because what you guys do is so important, and it's one of the things that I'm very passionate about being involved in is being able to help the kids that are still in church find a way to either reconcile that with their faith or to just get the hell out. So I've got to look into this Dragon Dads. That sounds, and because you don't have to be a parent to be a part of either one of these organizations.
Well, not fully, right? Like, so to be in our support groups, you do.
Yes.
Right? Like, we want to put people in our support groups that need the support, but to participate in our education programs or in some of other programs, no, you don't. To volunteer with Mama Dragons, we have tons of positions that don't require you to be a Mama Dragon yourself.
Right.
But I think the bigger thing is, like, a lot of times people find us through their kids. That kids knowing about Mama Dragons is actually a really helpful thing, that they're like, hey, when you come out, get your mom to Mama Dragons.
Right.
Help yourself out. Like, I feel like it's interesting who finds us. And like Anne was saying, even though both Anne and I come from an LDS background and our roots are kind of in that direction, we have people all over the faith map. We have people that come from conservative Catholic religions, evangelical religions. But I think today, 25% of our members come from the LDS religion.
Wow. Have you ever had a church leader reach out about saying, like, I would like to find a way to secretly have you as part of our church's, outreach program? Like, I mean, is there any kind of
I've had something like
cells?
That back in the day, right? Like, so back in the day when I was still kind of trying to change within, I worked with my area near Seattle, Washington, and we had a ward, which is like a chapter of a church called the Elliott Bay Ward, that I named as the Elliott Gay Ward. And we covered Capitol Hill. It's kind of like San Fran, right? Like, everybody's queer in Capitol Hill. And they were trying to figure out a way to connect with the LGBTQ community. And I actually worked with them for a few years because it seemed like, remember those couple steps forward, they were really wanting to, like, create space. And it was, things were moving in the right direction. I think at one time we had 12 queer people sitting on the pews with us. I'd show up with my girlfriend holding her hand. And people really did, like, change and advocate for that. In fact, more than ever, I feel like that's the Mormon church is having problems with that people are advocating within. And they're like, how do we stop that? But in, I think it was in 2012, something came up called the November 5th policy, because the Mormon church is really policy organized, right?
Sure.
So they run policies and it comes out the entire organization. And that policy specifically indicated that people who are gay and married were apostate and needed to be removed from the organization. And they also indicated their children. It was really a messy ordeal. And that's when there's a line for all of us. They're like, what's too much? And sometimes you don't know that line until it happens. You're like, that's too much. I can't help you. And that was really tricky too, because I had been doing advocating work with my stake and with, I had a calling in my church to help reach out to the queer community. And within, 24 hours, that policy came intact, and they're like, nope, toe the line. We're shutting that all off. You guys are done. And I was just like, really? I'm like your people. I'm your friend. I had a double date with you 2 weekends ago. And, like, that's it. Like, and I guess it was like a good reminder to me too, is like, sometimes I felt like most of us have some type of innate what's right and wrong. All of us, I actually think, come with that. And churches like to label it whatever they want, depending on the religion. It's the spirit, it's whatever it is. And I thought that when the Mormon church or other churches do things that are just wrong, like, people knew it, like, everybody said it, they're like, this feels wrong. And then they try to pray about making it feel right. And I'm like, well, when it feels wrong, it is wrong. Like, what are you doing? Stop it. Like, if it feels wrong, it is wrong. And I just, like, I wish more people could just stand up and be like, hey, it feels wrong. It is wrong. Like, it doesn't matter who you are or what you say, whatever religion,
Yep.
And I think that was the kind of my learning moment of being like, these people can't stand up and say this is wrong.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people did leave. There was a mass exodus of the Mormon church at the time, and they've had multiple since. Every time they do something like that,
Yep.
you know, those people on the edge, they're like, hey, it's too far, and we got to step out.
I'm really interested to see how this New Southern Baptist report about the scores or the many sexual abuse things that they've covered up. I'm really interested and hopeful that there's a mass exodus from that organization as well. I forget if I hit record already, but I really celebrate that report came out, even though I mourn the fact that it had to come out. I'm just thankful that it is getting out, because the sooner that we can get rid of the theocratic oversight of this country, the sooner that we can get back to a place of progress that and trust that our rights are going to be secured. And it's just a scary time in this country for anyone that is being marginalized by the theocracy that is America right now. I sound so cynical about it because I'm just like, it's just as y'all know, it's exhausting just to every day hear people just looking to make people feel second. You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me, which is why what you do is so important. Do y'all march in pride parades or anything?
We do. Well, in an aspect. So here's the tricky part. So we're on kind of the outside of the trauma circle. I love the trauma circle because it's the easy way to explain. Queer people are in the center of the trauma circle.
Yeah.
And then the next people outside that are their closest people, usually their friends and family. Yep. And then outside of that are their other friends. And then outside of that are the looky-loos, right? People are just curious.
Yeah.
Like when we do Pride, we go to a lot of events, and we go to events to connect with people and just show them love. But we try not to march in Prides because we want to join the other groups and show the other groups support that are the LGBTQ groups. So we can put our voices with their voices because it's their Pride. Right?
So smart. Yes.
And so often I feel like, I mean, as a queer person, the commercialization of Pride is kind of gross to me. But what I love is like when people can really join together and know what Pride is about. Pride is about changing our world. Yep. It's about standing up and saying like, no, this has to change. And it's about queer people. It's not about allies. It's not about businesses. It's not about all this junk. It's about queer people having some space to say like, hell, this is us.
Yeah.
See us.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. LA's Pride has a lot of scandal around it with commercialism and profiteering and all that stuff. And so as a result, we have two Prides back-to-back weekends with competing organizations. One is through the city of West Hollywood, and one is LA Pride, which is Christopher Street West. But I think, another aspect of Pride that I feel like is missing is the history. And there's a plaque in Hollywood on the Walk of Fame, and it's where the first Pride March was here, and nobody really knows about it, where it is. They didn't even know, because that was before WeHo even existed, and WeHo is obviously like the gay mecca in the world, really. I think, but there's just so much history that is not known and taken for granted by the younger generation, and as a result, I think that a lot of the younger generation is going to start to see some of their rights taken away if we don't get our shit together and act up and talk loudly.
Yeah, agreed.
And so your daughter is doing well and has adjusted and has a safe support community and everything like that.
She has. She is. I mean, I may be a little bit biased, but She is beautiful. She is 3 years into a transition. She works with an incredible medical team, and she has this fabulous group of friends at school, which is amazing because we live in a school district where even teachers aren't even allowed to wear a rainbow pin to show any kind of support. It's against the school rules. And so it's amazing that she has found her people. And I think the adversity, the persecution of being a gay kid in this community means that they have really bonded and latched onto each other. So she has this incredible group of friends. She's got a family who absolutely loves her and stands by her. She's got a few extended family members we're still working on. And she is very good at setting boundaries and saying, I'm not going to go to this function because there are going to be people there who are hurtful to me. And we say, you're not going. You don't have to. You never have to go somewhere where you don't feel safe. So.
What a blessing. I'm so thankful. It's so encouraging, and I feel like those are the stories that we don't showcase enough. because, media thrives on drama and scandal. But I just love hearing that. Tell me what it's like as a parent hearing about states like Texas that would be investigating you if you lived there and were advocating for the transition of your child. How do you, I mean, I'm not speechless because I have got a lot of words about it, but I'm trying to articulate specifically my thoughts. Obviously, Mama Dragons could be a support group for these parents who are in fear of being sent to jail for simply loving their kid, because that's what it is when you get down to it. What are your thoughts on it?
Oh, I mean, I think my thoughts are a lot like yours. Just horrified. I mean, absolutely horrified and terrified for what it could mean for other, what it could mean for my family, what it can mean for families just like mine.
Yeah.
It's unconscionable. I mean, I don't really know how to articulate it either. Yeah. Obviously we are working with those parents and trying to help them, but there's only so much we can do. And not everybody has the privilege of packing up and moving away. Those who do, that's exactly what they're doing. But what about those who don't? How do we help them? It's horrifying. So we rally and we educate and we talk, and we never stop talking until people finally listen to us and we get those laws changed. But meanwhile, how many victims? How many horror stories do we? How many
funerals?
How many funerals? And there will be funerals.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Well,
and it doesn't just impact Texas either, right? Like when those laws happen in other states, kiddos throughout the country are saying, "That's me. That's me that doesn't have space."
Yep.
And I don't think people understand like that. Even if you have the perfect family and you have the perfect religion, that if you have a society that's telling you that you're broken enough to have laws that you can't exist, like tells you that you're not okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's another boundary we set with our daughter. She has to just walk out of the room. I mean, we don't set that. She sets that, but she just has to leave during those legislative periods where they're discussing whether or not she has a right to exist.
Yep.
I mean, what a horrifying thing to have to listen to. And she's in a safe place and she's in a safe family, but she is still totally traumatized, as Celeste says, by people debating her right to live, her right to exist.
Yes. What can you speak to? And one of the things that I think that parents who have not had to deal with either a kid coming out as trans or know someone who has, it's the conversation, especially with someone who's 14, and you don't have to divulge where they were in terms of being prepubescent or mid or post, but I mean, how does one navigate that conversation medically, physically, psychologically, in terms of saying I hear you, I believe you, let's give it time, versus I hear you, let's go talk to somebody about starting this process? What is that like for a parent to have to navigate?
In my family's case, my daughter was already seeing a therapist every week. She was already needing that kind of support, and her therapist was already aware, had not been aware for very long, but her therapist already knew that she was trans before she came out to us. And so we kind of already had a safe space, a medical team to start with. And I think that I personally would give that recommendation to anybody to see a therapist, to get started and figure out where exactly you are. And maybe everybody in the family needs to be able to talk that through and, seek professional guidance on some of those things. Not every kid is ready to jump in on medical treatments. And here in Utah, you can't even jump in on medical treatments. There's nothing like that. Our doctors sat down and talked through a lot of things and needed her to be seeing a therapist who explained to her what she was going to go through. I mean, there are all these safeguards in place. So it's not like we just jumped in and transitioned. And that varies state by state, maybe even medical group by medical group. But that was the case with her. I think everybody's journey is different.
Yeah.
I think in Sophia's case, she had known for years. And she knew exactly what she had researched. She had done all of her work. She knew what she wanted out of life. And she finally decided to tell us, let us in on this big story that was going on with her.
I can't imagine being 14 and having the wherewithal to be able to articulate how you feel, and then to trust, especially growing up, in something conservative like LDS, and trusting that that when I announce this, that it will be received and not, with attacks. But what a kid Sophia must be to be. I mean, God.
She is an amazing kid. And I mean, that doesn't mean she doesn't have struggles like absolutely everybody else. Everything from
or get in trouble, or like stay out past curfew.
Yeah. Absolutely. Spend too much time playing video games. Yes, all of those things.
Yes.
But one of the very first things I said to her, because it was one of the first things that struck me, was how honored I was that she could trust me with something so big. I mean, what an incredible privilege to be trusted with that information. And so as parents, when somebody trusts us enough to tell them, how are we going to respond? What are we going to do with that trust, that sacred trust that they have given us? I mean,
and no matter how you respond, they will never forget that initial reaction.
That's right. Ever. And we have moms who tell us, I responded terribly. I said the worst possible things, but I know better now. And my child and I have talked through it, and we've worked through that. And again, I'm all for therapy. I really believe in therapy to get past some of these things. But, moms who are so sorry for the way they initially responded. And guess what? There's still a path forward, and you can still have a relationship. And they do. And so I just love collecting these stories from these incredible moms who come to us having just been through this experience. And not everybody joins Mama Dragons the night their kid comes out like I did. Some of them need to sit and let it percolate for a little while. Celeste mentioned our program Parachute, which is an e-learning course that you can just jump on in your own quiet time. For me, that's usually the middle of the night because I have 4 kids. But you can just jump in and take it at your own pace, kind of in the privacy and the safety of your own bubble. This first course is called Understanding Your LGBTQ Child. And so many parents who come to us just need that safe landing place to hear stories. It's all research-based, but it's told by parents for parents in a language they understand, in circumstances they can relate to. And it gives them an opportunity to learn why we need to affirm and what that looks like, and what kind of language to use, and how to really reach your child, and how to understand and accept the things that they're telling you. And I just think it's a beautiful program that so many people can take, maybe before they're ready to jump in and say, okay, gung-ho, I'm ready to affirm my kid. Let's go. I'm a mama dragon. They might need a few minutes to sit and say, I need to ask a few questions. I need to learn. I need to hear a few stories. I need to, as Celeste said, I need to see myself in a few stories first.
Yeah. Wow. Celeste, how do you go about, because I imagine a lot of what you both deal with is inbound inquiries about, getting your to know their child, but how do you do a lot of cold calls as well, like reaching out to communities or organizations to say, like, we worry, or not we worry about how you're treating the world, but, like, I mean, does it make sense? How do you get yourself into communities and situations where you probably are not invited?
That is tricky. You think about, like, even marketing and online marketing. We've definitely found that advertising and connecting with folks that aren't ready to hear the message maybe is not the best route. We do work with a lot of therapy groups throughout the U.S. so that when there is a need, that the therapist can offer resources outside of that therapy room to be like, hey, check out this thing that you can learn a little more. We also try really hard to connect with like-minded organizations that we can support each other. So often I think in the nonprofit world, it feels like competition rather than like a symbiotic relationship. And so because we're a US org, like, we work with PFLAG, we work with other orgs that are doing similar things, and we fit a different niche. And I think the other thing is we just try to put a lot of marketing money into being like, people, when they Google, can they find us when that question comes up?
Right.
Like, and things like this, like, this sounds silly, but, like, you talking about it and, like, you don't know the impact that you're making to people that are like, oh, I heard of this thing your mom probably would love this, and it might change your relationship with her, right? Like, it's sometimes as simple as that.
Yep.
And people come to us with all layers of information. You hear Anne's story, she got it. A lot of my moms don't get it right away.
Yep.
And they need a space that can ask those hard questions that you feel like if you put those other places that you're like, I can't believe you're asking that question. You know, like we want a safe place and be like, you can kind of ask them questions if you're ready for the answer. And that's it. You know, it's kind of that simple. Yeah. But the trickiest part is to work with groups that aren't interested. Yeah. You know, like you can't force feed it.
Yep. And I think when you do, that's when backlash, I think, is exponentially increased. You know, I'm thankful that we, you know, had the Defense of Marriage Act struck down, and that, you know, we get our rights to marry secured for the meantime. But I think in that it was a force-fed maneuver that ended up causing a lot of backlash against our community as well, in terms of acceptance. Celeste, what would you say to the divine were they standing before you?
You know, I think I would just kind of do like a check-in. I'd be like, this is heaven, right? We're already there, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I kind of come to a place in my life that I think there's a lot of power in the ambiguity, that not having the answers is kind of a beautiful thing. And like leaning into that is kind of awesome.
Yeah. Well, especially because we're so obsessed with having exact answers and like
much problems.
Even just the addiction to the binary that this world, especially this country, has. You know, right or wrong, left or right, conservative, liberal. You know, black or white, boy, girl. And it just ignores the beauty of the gray area, which is where 99% of us live in one way or another.
And I just kind of hope this is it. You know, like if this is it, like what can I do today to make this the best possible world it can be? Yes. I mean, I imagine most of us listening to this or sitting here feel the same way. That's like, I do this because I literally believe that we can create the world we want to live in and the world that we all deserve to live in, you know, but it takes effort from all of us. It can't just be a handful of us sprinting around.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And what would you say to the divine were they standing before you?
Oh, that is such a hard question. I think
that's why I ask it.
I know. I think I might apologize for all the times I pretended to speak on their behalf and was totally wrong.
Wow. Okay, that's a first. I get a lot of people who say I would say thank you. I get a lot of people who would say who say that they would say fuck you. But that I love it because in reconciling with your faith, I mean, there are things that I remember one time when I was probably 13 years old, speaking at a True Love Waits rally. Do you know what True Love Waits is? And I don't know if it's a big thing in the Baptist church, but it's basically a virginity pledge where you swear to God, on a certificate in front of a group of prepubescent teens to save yourself for marriage. And I still have the certificate that's in my high school Bible. But I just, I was up there before my balls dropped and my voice changed, saying, that sex is a gift from God that's only meant for marriage. And, I had never even touched myself at that point. And I just think not that anybody was listening to a 14-year-old Matt at that point about, how to develop a worldview. But I often do wonder, who have I led astray in those days where I was still clinging to this, archaic mentality? Who listened to me? That's scary. I thank you for that's a first. Thank you for saying that. That's pretty cool. Anything else you want to say about Mama Dragons? How can we find you? How can we follow you? How can we support you?
It's pretty simple. mamadragons.org. Connect with us.
Spell Mama, because I know there's different ways to spell it.
Yeah, M-A.
Great.
D-R-A-G-O-N-S. It's pretty simple. So Mama Dragons, we're on all the social aspects,
right.
And we're always looking for more support. And if you don't have a kiddo yourself, there's other things you can do. You can volunteer your time. We're always looking for funders. Come help us. Help us change the world. Because if you put moms on it.
And you're a 501c nonprofit, so it's taxed right off as well. Great.
Correct.
Cool. All right. And Celeste, anything else my audience needs to know about you?
No, we appreciate all your listeners out there that either have Mama Dragons already in their lives or ones that deserve Mama Dragons in their lives.
Yeah. And as I'm sure you'll agree, everyone deserves to have a Mama Dragon in their life.
Me too. And it's, having one changes the world, you know?
Yeah. I really appreciate y'all being on today to talk about your stories, and I just feel so honored to now know about you and to have you as a resource when people come to me and I don't have answers. I can send them to the Mama Dragons. And if I'm in I've never been to Seattle, which is really upsetting to me because I know that I would love it because I'm an outdoorsy, foresty, cold weather kind of guy. But if I'm ever there, I'll look you up. Next time in Salt Lake, I'll look you up, Anna, and we can go.
Adventures.
Yes, and we can go defile Salt Lake City together, Anne.
I love it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I really thank you for your time. And until next time, you can always reach out to me, and you'll have a good rest of your week. Okay. Thank you for what you do.
Thanks so much, Matt.
Yeah. And all the people said, gay men. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Fagnostic Podcast hosted by me, Matt Hayes. You can find me at matthayes.com, that's MATHAYES.com, or on Just the Millennial socials at Hayes on It, HAYES on It. Please go subscribe, review, and share this podcast. And in the meantime, peace be with all y'all.
Hi, Michael Spicer here. Matt Hayes forgot to put my name in the credits of his podcast as the composer, but I'm here to tell you that I wrote the music for his podcast. Whatever it's called, I don't know.